This is the Endo MetaMask sync, and it is March 19th of 2025. We're going to talk, we're going to refresh or attempt to reconstruct a conversation from last week for ZB's benefit and for our own benefit to make sure that we are correct in our resolution about the issue number. I'll leave to ZB. This is for Leo's proposal.
It's a pull request 2723.
Right. And it's to, we had resolved last week to conflate the purposes of the eval taming option to have to affect the desirable behaviors of the new proposed host evaluators option. And Matthew was going through our reasoning.
Yeah. So from what I remember from the presentation and the discussion last week, was that on Hermes, the evaluators do not support direct eval. And there's no need to actually provide the evaluators two compartments. So what we wanted is basically use the no eval option, but also make sure that during session initialization, we don't throw an error saying, "Hey, there's no working evaluators, so we can proceed." In the case where there's no eval used as an eval taming option, we should just be able to proceed forward because there should never be a need to actually try to do an evaluation. And that's where I want to make sure I understand what if I understand that that's what is actually the case here, like for Hermes, or if I missed something. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, it's not going to be possible for SES to build a working evaluator in Hermes because of the lack of direct eval. But I don't see the connection between that and the host evaluators option, because the host evaluators option drives the behavior of assert direct eval that SES used to have, that we are now expanding to assert the state of evaluators in the host, so that you can declare that you have certain expectations to what evaluators are going to be available, either no evaluators at all or no direct eval specifically. That's for Hermes, and all possible evaluators. And this is complementary to the eval taming option, because if you do eval taming safe eval, which one's the default, by the way? Is it safe eval?
Safe eval.
I think so.
Safe eval basically replaces the safe eval replaces the start compartment evaluators with evaluators.
So for that, you need to have access to evaluators. And if you don't have any evaluators because you're running under content security policy, it would be nice to not throw an error in that case, because evaluation is actually safe when absent.
Right, but in that case, why not set the eval taming as no eval explicitly?
Okay. So the remaining ambiguous case is in a host that has evaluators working properly. We want to set eval taming to no eval. and have no evaluators available to the program.
I think that's what no eval does.
Yes, but what option then do we want to use to assert that we're running in an environment under content security policy where evaluators are originally not available?
Why do you want to assert that?
So that my program doesn't start if it's accidentally being run in a fully capable host when content security policy has been disabled.
I'm wondering how that is a concern of SES. Like,
Mostly
mean,
through the assert direct eval functionality that it used to have that was concerned with content security policy. And it avoided a failure under content security policy to skip certain things silently. But now we have 3 possible states, not 2, and silent failure is not an option anymore. So SES was asserting things about evaluators already, and we wanted to expand it to assert that the situation with evaluators matches SES users' expectations.
Such that if that were mistakenly used in on a different host, that it would produce an exceptional behavior instead of a copacetic. All right.
And that's,
yeah,
I think, is the only thing that doesn't fully fit into the eval taming option.
I mean, I don't know. It seems a little strange to me. Like the way I understood the check that we had for direct eval being available was more that basically we were not really able to proceed anyway without a direct eval for a bunch of cases where we're with the no eval being present, we can effectively say like, hey, we don't need direct eval. And there shouldn't be a need to assert that direct eval is present. Especially if says no eval replaces all the evaluators in start compartment and in created compartments with evaluators that do not evaluate, that basically replicate CSP. So there should be, after SES runs, there should be no evaluators left in the first place. Of course, there is always a possibility that the host will introduce new evaluators, but those would only be on the start compartment,
that's true.
of course.
What about the case where we would not have direct eval, but would want a new function to actually work?
I mean, the SES shim doesn't support direct eval in the first place. So indirect eval and new function are roughly equivalent.
Yes. So what I'm saying is under Hermes with direct eval missing, what would be our eval taming value that we want to set if we don't want SES to throw an error when lockdown happens, and we want to not replace evaluators with functions creating errors.
Okay, so what you want basically is a fourth option, which is no eval in compartments and unsafe evaluators in the start compartments.
Yeah, that's one of the things we were considering.
Okay, so technically that is an unsafe no eval option for taming then.
Hmm.
Okay. I think I have the entire picture, and I'll need some time to make sure I don't see holes in it.
Yeah, it's if we have okay, so my intuition is that if these taming options are orthogonal, then every configuration of the cross product of those taming options should be sensible and motivated. Um, and to that end, if it isn't the case that the cross product, if it's not the case that every cross product is pardon, every configuration in the cross product of two options is sensible, then we should flatten that down into eval taming. And that could be reusing an existing option and extending its scope, or it could be the creation of another eval taming. Then that is my intuition. I am not the strongman counter argument is that currently the eval taming option pertains specifically to the behavior of taming eval in the start compartment and only the start compartment.
That has changed already when we introduced no eval. No eval creates evaluators
Right,
in
and
child compartments that pro.
threads that into compartments, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say like technically what we have really is two eval taming options, one for the start compartment, one for the child compartments. Child compartments effectively only having unsafe eval and no eval. You cannot safe eval and no eval. You cannot do unsafe eval in the child compartment. At least you shouldn't, not by default. You can thread your eval if you want manually, but yeah. So um but we already introduced no eval that affects the child compartments on
Right,
as an eval.
and we observed that it affects the child compartments in the same way as this new option is proposing. So there is overlap. Um, so yeah. So what is so if there were a fourth configuration, if I understand correctly, ZB, the only difference is that allow the it would allow a safe function constructor in compartments that's
Yeah,
built
I don't know what we want to have in that option yet. But what we needed to fix was a situation where assert direct eval was failing because feral function was working and direct eval was not. And so we introduced host evaluators as an option that sets expectations. And if we want to fold that into eval taming, I would have to expand the scope of what we're doing into something that makes sense for evaluators, where we initially we only wanted to get locked down to prevent prototype pollution and then get that in and not
Mhm.
worry about the situation with evaluators
Right, because you just would
because they don't affect us yet.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, we'll come up with an eval taming option or get back to you with
A counter arg. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
All
with a
right.
counter if we find that something gets in the way.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's all we had for topics. Chris, do you have a topic? I know that you're working on ecosystem compatibility.
No.
No topic. All right. For the record, Chris is working
Atypical.
right. Not on the surface. The yeah, Chris, you're working on 3 ecosystem compatibility issues at once. And that was package JSONs that only contain the type module or type CommonJS override for a subdirectory of a package, but not being the proper package JSON of the package as a whole, which we do not currently support. Exports with patterns and imports of any kind in package JSON. And Chris and I had a good conversation on that design space last week, and it's yeah, it's an interesting problem. Chris, are you favoring the creation of a prefix trie for the pattern matcher?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've already done that part. I kind of need to just, I need to connect the dots, as it were.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Awesome. All right, with that, I'll that's a meeting.